This week's Capricorn new moon is about establishing new rules, starting with 1. Don't pick up the phone. You know he's only calling because he's drunk and alone. 2. Don't let him in. You'll have to kick him out again. I'm just kidding. That's from the song New Rules by Dua Lipa. But maybe those are some of your new rules. Maybe this Capricorn new moon for you is around establishing rules in order to keep someone toxic within your life at bay, or to keep yourself from being tempted to fall back into a toxic pattern with someone. Maybe those are your new rules. Maybe your new rules are more so 1. Don't pick up the phone until you get out of bed to grab a sip of water and go for a walk first thing in the morning before inundating yourself with information. Maybe your new rules are 2. Don't just stay in. It's time to go outside and say yes to more things. Whatever your new rules are, the Capricorn new moon on January 18th, 2026 is the most ideal astrology to set new rules for yourself, new standards, new expectations, new boundaries for yourself that actually last. Because it is a regular decision. It is a regular decision to not pick up that phone for that person you know you have no business talking with, to get out of bed, even when every part of you wants to just stay in bed and check your phone first thing, to fight through the lethargy of wanting to just stay inside and being willing to go outside to say yes to more social gatherings and outings. This is around sustained new starts and rules for yourself, new rules for yourself. And I emphasize that because the ruler of this Sunday's Capricorn new moon is Saturn in Pisces, who is sextile Uranus in Taurus. Now, both of these planets are in the final degrees of their respective signs. Saturn is closing out its time in Pisces, which has been a journey since 2023, and Uranus is closing out its time in Taurus, which has been a journey until 2018. Saturn in Pisces comes to a close in February. Uranus in Taurus comes to a close in April. And so there could be a journey within your life, as large or as subtle as it is, around knowing that there needs to be change in some sort of arena of your life, that there needs to be boundaries, that you've been in a certain cycle, that you've been in a loop, and that you need to establish new rules for yourself. Capricorn energy is around bossing up and showing up. And sometimes you have to put temptation aside. You need to put a fun time aside. You need to put even just certain habits that you are stuck in aside in order to decide that you are sick of a certain pattern, you're sick of a certain cycle, and you're ready for something new. And it feels like a lot of us this week may be in some sort of loop that feels very self-deprecating. Like the energy when you go back to someone toxic and you're like, no, I had rules. I wasn't supposed to pick up the phone. I wasn't supposed to let this person in. And here I am. And then the self-hatred and the self-deprecation starts, where it's like, why could I do this? I've done this so many times since 2018. Or you wake up in the morning first thing and you grab your phone, and then 2 hours later, you're just hating yourself around, I could have done so much. I wasted so much time. This is not productive. And being in any sort of shame or guilt loop like that makes you crave relief. And oftentimes the relief that you crave is in the form of the bad habit. It perpetuates itself. The more that you look at it with guilt and shame, as represented by Mars, the Sun, and Mercury all squaring off with Chiron and Aries, the more that you just want a break from that self-hatred, from being in that self-deprecation loop. And so you run back into the arms of someone that you know is not good for you, or you just seek to numb out and check out by spending another hour on the phone, perpetuating this toxic cycle. And this Sunday is around establishing new expectations for yourself, and to think more so like who it is that you are evolving to be rather than who it is that you have been. You know, when we talk about Chiron squares, it's painful. A lot of us could experience in big or small ways certain triggers surface this week, or certain guilt or shame loops come to the surface. And when we talk about guilt or shame loops represented by this week's Chiron squares, it's important to know that our body gets very addicted to certain cycles or certain loops that we are in, even if logically it does not make sense, even if emotionally it does not feel good. We all have our own baseline. We all have our own homeostasis of what feels like ourselves. And it is the most challenging thing that we ever do to break the habit of being ourselves or to fundamentally set new rules for ourselves or enact new habits. But there is an energy this week to do just that. And to know that this is hard work, right? It's a Saturn new moon. It's planting the seeds, but it's also planting the discipline to show up for it. It's easy to say, one, don't pick up the phone, but it's much more challenging when you are tempted, when you are inebriated. It is hard work to separate from who it is that you used to be in order to consciously choose who it is that you are becoming. But I want to let you know that you are not alone. Venus this week will sextile Saturn and trine Uranus, which can give fresh opportunities to try new things, fresh new opportunities to connect. And then Venus will enter Aquarius, which is the sign of friendship, community, groups at large. The song that I was quoting earlier, New Rules by Dua Lipa, has one of my favorite music videos ever. Basically, it's Dua Lipa looking fabulous with all of her gals. And there's essentially a theme within this music video around this group of friends, like keeping each other accountable. Like if you're not familiar with the song, essentially Dua Lipa is setting up new rules for herself because she recognizes that she's in a toxic pattern. And the music video sort of depicts the power in numbers and like keeping one another accountable because it's very hard to change. It's one of the hardest things that we do to change. Our bodies are chemically addicted to being the way that they are or being a lot of times in the patterns and the cycles that we are in, even if they are very painful, which comes to the surface with the squares to Chiron. But it's important to know that you are not alone because oftentimes feeling like nobody gets it and nobody's on the wavelength really perpetuates those aforementioned guilt and shame loops where we could just feel like nobody gets it, nobody understands me, I'm so isolated in this, why am I like this? And it just doubles down where the cycle repeats and we want relief, maybe in the form of something that we know is not good for us. And Aquarius really celebrates connection in whichever form. So maybe there's an energy of camaraderie within your pickleball league. Maybe there's an element of camaraderie within your group chat, keeping one another accountable. Maybe there's an element of camaraderie here in the comment section, here in your cosmic corner of the internet. It's just important to know that you are not alone and to plant seeds around the new rules that will help you continue to embody who you are evolving to be and separate from who it is that you've been. And listen, I know the word rules can feel very limiting. Aquarius energy is very rebellious energy. It's like, I don't want rules. I don't want restriction. But sometimes it's just helpful to establish standards for yourself, expectations for yourself in order to arise, in order to ascend. That is what this Capricorn new moon is all about. It's a very potent opportunity to plant new seeds around, regardless of if you spent 3 hours in bed checking your phone, even if you're like, oh, I need to stop doing this. Or if you woke up in your ex's bed this morning and you're like, oh my God, I need to stop doing that. The Capricorn new moon is an opportunity to start over with a brand new leaf, not beating yourself up, not staying in the shame and guilt loop, being honest, maybe even remaining accountable within any sort of group that you feel inspired to remain accountable in, and then establishing new rules, new expectations, new guidelines around how it is that you are going to ensure that this does not happen again. And to really build that level of healthy confidence and appreciation around knowing I can trust myself to fulfill the promises that I make. I can trust myself to respond in new ways, to think in new ways, to show up in new ways. I believe in the power and the possibility of new beginnings, not because they just happen, but because I choose them. So I'm so looking forward to diving into everything that you need to know about this week's astrology. We're talking about the astrology from January 12th to January 18th, 2026, what this means for you, how you can work with the Capricorn new moon, what shifts with love, money, pleasure, and beauty are coming with Venus entering Aquarius. We'll talk about it all. But before we do, take a step inside my cosmic cafe. Let me know what you are sipping on to start your week. I'm so excited because genuinely, I am always drinking something. Like, the reason we have this segment in Magic Monday is because I'm just naturally always drinking a beverage. Like, I don't know if it's just having a lot of water signs in my chart, but I always have something by my side. I feel naked and afraid if I don't have a cup of tea by my side, if I don't have a water, if I don't have something by my side. So this particular segment was very natural and authentic around, I'm always drinking something anyway, so I might as well announce what it is that I'm drinking. And I'm very passionate about various beverages. So I'm so excited because Low key, I'm feeling like a beverage influencer, okay? Because this is not a brand deal, just a heads up. But this company did send me this pack of drinks to try. So I feel like I've made it as a beverage connoisseur, as a beverage lover. I'm so excited that they thought of me to reach out. I'm so excited to try this. It's so aligned with this week's astrology. It literally says right here, juice from the future. I'm like, hello, Venus and Aquarius, the sign of the future. This is the moon punch flavor. I also love it because there's a little star on the cap. It's giving very me, but essentially it's like a fusion between juice and water. So it's not overly sweet. So I'm so excited to try this. Okay, I took a couple of sips, letting it sit in the palate. My review is in. I love it. If you're curious what the moon tastes like, this tastes like pineapple. Moon punch is apparently pineapple. It's actually more sweet than I thought it was going to be. And you know me, I just love the cosmic elements of it. Y'all know I'm a juice gal, so I love that it's kind of that hybrid so I can watch my sugar. Maybe that's a new rule that I am establishing. This is not sponsored. They just offered to send me free product and I accepted as the beverage influencer that I am. But they did give me a promo code. So if you are feeling enticed, if you are also a juice person, but striving to cut down your sugar a bit, and you're also a sucker for cosmic packaging, the promo code that they gave me is Haley Comet 25. So you can insert that at checkout. So if this is your sort of beverage, I also just want to announce that there are a few more spots available for the Capricorn new moon circles that we are having this weekend. Like we were talking about, this new moon is a fertile opportunity to plant seeds around new projects, new endeavors, new rules, new boundaries, whatever it is. And if you are wanting to be in community, just with Venus entering Aquarius this weekend, with other astrology lovers to set intentions, if you're wanting to know practically what is coming up this year for you transit-wise, I would love to see you there. I'm going to have Alex insert the dates and the times on screen and how many spots are available. I know that the first Saturday class sold out. There's one more spot at the time of filming in the later Saturday class. So I'm going to have him insert it so it's a little bit closer to the date that this goes live, as the spots are filling up fast. So this will be the most recent update around the availability. I would so love to see you there. As a reminder, you get your chart, your transits, so that when it comes time to plant seeds for new intentions under the auspicious alignment of the Capricorn new moon, you feel grounded and empowered with understanding what the astrology is bringing for you this particular year and how to work with it this particular year. So I'm so excited. To those of you who have already signed up, can't wait to see you there. And without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into Vibe Check of the Week. So Vibe Check of the Week is a segment here in my cosmic corner of the internet where we take all of the astrology this week, from Sun square Chiron, Mars square Chiron, Mercury square Chiron, Venus sextile Saturn, Venus trine Uranus. The astrology is interesting when we have a massive stellium all transiting together, because it just hits bam, bam, bam. Essentially, we can understand that these aspects are happening, but Vibe Check of the Week aims to answer the question, yeah, but what does that mean for me? When there are so many planets in Capricorn all transiting the same territory of the sky and thus repeating the same patterns. What does that mean for my week, my plans, my to-dos, my life? Vibe Check of the Week compares it to a real life scenario in order to bring the astrology to life, to give it nuance, to give it texture, to give it depth, to give it a real world application. We are in the last week of Capricorn season. After all, we got to bring the astrology down to earth. So this week's Vibe Check of the Week is the following scenario. We will say that you have been incredibly busy as of late, which a lot of us may relate with, as we talked about last week, when we have this much of the cosmos concentrated in one territory of the sky, concentrated a sign that can be as hardworking and sometimes tough as Capricorn. A lot of us can feel like there is a major focus around our responsibilities, a major focus around our work, major focus around our obligations, major focus around our standards of how we expect ourselves to fulfill said obligations. So you've been very busy, and you have a bad habit when you get busy like this to completely isolate, to stop replying to your friends' messages, to just check out from the world altogether. And it's driven by this feeling within around, well, no one gets it, no one understands, as well as just genuinely feeling stretched too thin. And so you just truly do not feel like you have the energetic bandwidth, like you have the focus to sit down and reply to these messages in the amount of depth that you would want to reply to these messages with. But it just keeps building and stacking. Like every single day that goes by and it's another day, it's like, oops, didn't reply to Jimmy. Oops, forgot to reply to Jack. Oops, forgot to reply to Jess or whoever it is. It builds this stab of guilt around, oh, I'm such a bad friend, but I have so much to do and I just don't have time. And now I feel like, because it's been so long since I replied, now I feel like I have to have this amazing reply. And I just literally do not feel like I have the energetic bandwidth to do that right now. And so it just keeps perpetuating. You're busy, you feel scattered, you feel overwhelmed. And every time you think about Jimmy, Jack, and Jess, you just feel that stab of guilt around, gosh, I'm the worst friend. And taking messages from your friends wanting to connect, building upon it, extrapolating around, I'm the worst human ever because I don't reply and they hate me and they're never going to want to be my friend ever again. And who would want to be my friend? I don't even know how to respond. So much energy has gone into this debacle, but none of it has been filtered into actually communicating with these individuals, because now you feel like you are going to those messages with your head held low, just feeling so ashamed. And it turns out in this particular instance that this shame was entirely self-inflicted. Like when you finally muster up the courage and the time around, okay, I just need to sit down for 1 hour. I can't allow myself to get pulled in different directions. I just need to reply to my friends. I just need to carve out this time and do it. You find that you end up having really lovely, really genuine, authentic conversations with your friends who understand that you're a little spacey, who understand that you're a little absent-minded, who don't take it personally. But you also recognize that it's not a good, healthy place for you to be in that season of life where you're just busy, you're not going outside, you're not talking to anyone, you're isolating, you just feel so alone in what it is that you're carrying. You recognize that you have the healthiest worldview at large when you do feel connected. And connection, like so many other elements of our life, it is something that we need to prioritize. It is a muscle to work. It doesn't just happen. Like our friendships have to be nourished. Our family relationships have to be nourished. Our romantic relationships need to be nourished. They don't just happen. It takes a conscious effort. And it's also important to understand how it is that you move and how it is that you operate, because with the squares to Chiron, we can have so much energy around beating ourselves up around, why am I so scattered? Why am I so absent-minded? Why do I have 502 unread messages in my phone? And that is a real number of my unread messages. I would love to know below. Does anybody have more unread messages than me? Somebody please say yes. I used to have a rule where I strived to never let it go above 400, but then it's just been rising and rising and rising. And when it gets like that, you get more and more scared. It just feels more and more overwhelming around the idea of responding to all of your emails or responding to all of these texts. Or maybe for you, it's showing up around your to-do list stacking. And sometimes the sheer volume of it feels so overwhelming where we seek relief. We seek distraction. We check out rather than handling a couple of emails. We see the full amount and we're like, well, that's scary, so I'm not going to. Or we see the sheer amount of text and it's like, well, that's a lot, so I'm just not going to. And the Chiron energy can make us feel a lot of guilt and shame. Why am I like this? Why do I have so many unread messages on my phone? Why can I not respond and reply like a normal person? And here's what I want to communicate about that, is that firstly, normalcy does not exist. Okay, Venus is entering Aquarius this week. Be your freaky deaky self and understand how you move, how you operate, rather than why am I like this? I'm the worst. How can I work on this? How can I be honest with myself? Capricorn new moon is a bit of a reality check. How can I be honest with myself and how I move? It's not realistic for me to respond to messages as soon as they come in. I don't think it's healthy to be accessible 24/7. It distracts my energy too much from other elements that I'm trying to work on. Maybe that's unrealistic for me, and I don't need to beat myself up for not abiding by an expectation that was unrealistic to begin with. Maybe I can just get real around how I am around, hey, I'm not going to be the friend who is going to be able to text with you at the drop of a hat, but Capricorn new moon supports committing. I can commit to a regular practice of connecting with my friends because it is important to me. Maybe it would be a better usage of how I move to dedicate, hey, every Wednesday, I'm going to have a phone call with Jimmy. We just talk it up when Jimmy's coming back from work. And that's just a great way for us to connect without me feeling I have to talk back and forth. forth. Or maybe with Jess, I really love to voice memo her back and forth when we're on our walks. And that's a way for us to communicate. And maybe when it comes to Jack's kind of the friend that we can kind of pick things up where we left off. And I could just commit to hanging out with Jack once a month. And he knows that it's not a big deal if he doesn't hear from me. Like, it's important to honor how it is that you are. And this is just, of course, an example. We're on the vibe check of the week. If you find yourself regularly disappointing yourself and just thinking, why am I this way? Why am I this way? It's time to start thinking, get kind of mad scientist with it. We're almost in Aquarius season, and think, why am I this way? Like, what is it about texting back and forth that feels overwhelming to me? Or what times of the day do I feel the most inspired to connect? What mediums do I feel the most inspired to connect to? What are new rules that I can establish that really work for me and how I operate and how I move through the world, which is not going to be like how everybody else does, because we're all unique. And it's this delicate balance this week around, yes, the Capricorn new moon is a bit tough on us around, 572 messages. It's doing a lot. Some would say that's doing too much. But if we overwhelm ourselves around, I have to respond to all right now, and I need to constantly be accessible and respond, we are going to perpetuate certain cycles. It's committing to, new rules is I'm going to strive to handle my responding and my corresponding on Wednesdays, Mercury's day. That'll be a new rule, and work on it bit by bit. Being honest around, this is something that I want to improve. I want to connect with Jack and Jess and Jill and Jimmy. Actually, I think is the name that I said. I want to connect with these individuals, and how it is that I'm trying to do things isn't working, and isolating isn't working. It's making me feel more pain. It's making me feel more alone. It's making me feel more isolated. It's time to be honest with myself and to be open to improvements around building in the direction of what it is that I value. So we will go ahead and take it into our day-by-day analysis. I just want to remind you that I'm located in California. So all time zones that I mention are PST. Please adjust to your time zone if you're located elsewhere. And without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into the astrology for Monday, January 12th. So on Monday, January 12th, the week starts off with a bit of a oof kind of feeling, and it's reflected by the Capricorn sun squaring Chiron in Aries. This lands at 12:32 p.m. PST. So there could be an energy around feeling a bit humbled by the universe, feeling bad about yourself, feeling not as confident, feeling like you put in a lot of energy towards something and it still was not good enough. And the subtext is, I am not good enough. When it comes to having so many Chiron squares, one after the other this week, we had one yesterday, Venus square Chiron, and now we have 3 more in our cosmic forecast. And when we talk about Chiron energy, it digs deep into embedded stories, especially around identity with the energy of Aries. Around, this is so me. I'm always like this. I'm always flustered. I'm always the worst friend. I'm always pulled in so many directions. I'm always. And it stacks and layers on something that's very familiar, where it could have taken different shapes throughout the years, but it comes back to this energy around, I am not good enough, and how other people in society function and operate. I can't do that. Everybody else is so good at responding to messages right away and being able to handle work and all of these different things. And here I am just striving to stay above water. Why am I like this? Just beating ourselves up. And of course, the energy of Capricorn is going to bring about this emphasis on our standard, on the expectation of who it is that we are expected to be out in the world. And with the square to Chiron, it brings about this energy around, why am I this way? Everybody else seems like they can do A, B, and C. And I would be very conscious where it is that you continue to perpetuate the everybody else narrative. Because yes, there are different people who operate through the world differently, but it can be so healing to recognize that you are not alone. Much like the Dua Lipa music video. If you are neurodivergent, for example, like being able to connect with other people who are neurodivergent, or connect with different subreddits of individuals with their essentially coping strategies, like it can just help to be medicinal around, oh, I'm not alone. And rather than feeling like I'm trying to make my energy work in a system that is not built for me, this helps me understand that there is a uniqueness to how it is that I show up and how it is that I move through the world. And I don't need to feel bad about that. I don't need to beat myself up. And it makes me feel less alone to know that there's other humans that get it. And that's the power of numbers. That's the power of coming together in whichever way we feel like we can find community or find people who are on the same wavelength. I have some Aquarius placements within my chart, and I, like many other Aquarius placements, let me know down in the chat if you agree with this, if you also feel this. I have had for my entire life just this alien syndrome, where I just kind of feel like I'm an alien, not in terms of, after I leave the cosmic corner of the internet, I zip up in my UFO, but just an energy around, I've just felt flabbergasted interacting with the majority of humans in my life, just around, I feel like I'm from a different planet. Like, it was always very hard for me to find connection because I'm just like, I just feel different in some way. And I don't mean that in like an elitist way. I was just like, what moves a lot of people doesn't move me. What a lot of people connect on, I don't connect on. There's just an element around feeling like I was almost behind plexiglass in a sense, around so deeply wanting connection, but feeling baffled how to find it or how to establish it. And what honestly shifted that for me was starting to be more outward with my love for astrology. Like, starting to be fully authentically myself is what really allowed me to call in connections that really were genuine and where I felt like we weren't from different planets. That is where that began to shift. Because rather than feeling like there was something wrong with me, where I was trying to connect with these like plexiglass connections that really were never meant to be my connections, it was almost like an energy around, okay, well, I can't be like everybody else, so let me just be myself. And the way that being myself, astrology just being one extension from that, began to call in people who were on my wavelength, who it felt like if they were also aliens, we were from the same planet. Like, that began to happen when I started to be very authentic myself and not have a lot of shame around the ways that I'm different. And of course, there's drawbacks to that. There's lots of people who probably think I'm bonkers, They always do if you go a path that is different than the conventionally approved one. And I mentioned this today because with Sun Square Chiron, there can be pain points around, why am I this way? And even seeing other people and their visions of success and what it is that they're building and how it is that they fit in with society at large, or at least we perceive that they do, and feeling like, ugh, why am I like this? Because sometimes when we feel that plexiglass energy where it's like, I want to connect, I want to be on your wavelength, but I just feel different. Sometimes we think the solution to that is to be like them, when the solution is to be more you, even if there is a painful path to carve, is the authentic path. Lots of people will think you're odd. Lots of people will think you're weird. There is a certain level of comfort around going a path that's very linearly prescribed. I do think that's shifting, honestly, with Pluto and Aquarius, and even Saturn and Neptune in Aries. I think there is a genuine surge in the collective currently around building and designing a very authentic life, a life around you rather than what everybody else is doing. But sometimes there are pain points. There are oofs around. It could feel so good to build something that is authentic, to be who it is that you are, that is fully authentic. But then there's just certain posts that you see sometimes of certain people who you tried so hard to have a connection with, but it was just plexiglass, and seeing all of them getting along and getting raises at their 9-to-5s and buying homes and getting married, which again, all of these things can be such beautiful decisions if they are your decisions. But the energy of the Capricorn Sun Square Chiron is around looking at other people's metrics and milestones and wondering, why not me? Am I not good enough for these particular outward societal metrics and milestones? And I'm telling you, the secret sauce this week is shifting from why me around, hey, I tried to force plexiglass connection. Like, those were just not my people. I tried to build in this conventional way, and that was just not my path. It's getting curious around who it is that you are, quirks and all, unique qualities at all. The ask at this time is to not beat yourself up for not fitting into molds that you were never meant to fit into. Is really the encouragement. Even if it doesn't have to relate to work and society and expectations, there just could be certain pain points around feeling a bit humiliated, feeling like you made a mistake, feeling bad about yourself, wondering why you are the way that you are. The moon is in Scorpio all day long, which truthfully doesn't help matters too terribly much. It also can be quite self-destructive, but we are in the waning crescent moon phase. So the encouragement is to really release, is to really let go, is to really shed. However it is that you need to pattern disrupt. It's like just really remaining mindful. If you recognize the energy around, oh, everybody else at the work cafeteria is all together and they're all talking about that sports game and I didn't watch it. I feel so different and I feel shameful. Why am I not like other people? It's like pattern disrupting. However it is that you can do that, it's being very conscious around perpetuating inner stories. Because again, this particular instance in the cafeteria is something new, but Chiron energy brings about pain that is old. Pain that stems back to being in elementary school and feeling different than other people. And to also know if you made a work mistake, it does not define who it is that you are. And to also talk yourself through it. Choose an empowering script, just with the Scorpio moon sextile Mercury in Capricorn. And that evening, the Scorpio moon will trine Jupiter in Cancer. So whatever the ouch was from Sun square Chiron this evening, it's important to nurture yourself, nourish yourself, and do things that make you feel empowered to begin again and start again. With the Scorpio moon sextile Mars in Capricorn before midnight. On Tuesday, January 13th, the Chiron tour continues. The tour that I'm sure all of us would not buy concert tickets to if we were able to, but alas, here we are in the Chiron tour 2026. And so the third stop of Chiron's tour, squaring the Capricorn stellium, is Mars square Chiron, which lands today around 2:30 p.m. PST. And this can show up around our own coping strategies, whether that is fight, whether that is freeze. We all have different ways that we cope, and a lot of them do stem from certain trauma responses or just certain ways that we have coped or dealt. Whether that is freezing. Within the vibe check, our protagonist froze, where it's like, it was overwhelming, even if it was genuinely not a stressor, like Jimmy, Jack, and Jill were not tripping. Sometimes things can feel like that, especially if already you're in a highly agitated, highly stressed state. You are going to catastrophize small things. You are going to feel overwhelmed, even if they are manageable from outside. It's important to give yourself grace if you are feeling very easily triggered or if something feels really overwhelming. But it's also remaining very conscious around, oh, that's what I'm doing. I'm freezing. You know, sometimes we freeze where it's like we have this project where we know it's going to change our business or we need to start pitching, but we just freeze. We just keep pushing it off. We just keep procrastinating. You know, procrastinating can sometimes be a form of freezing because it doesn't feel safe. And like I was saying in the opener, our body gets very hooked on particular ways of being. Even if it does not feel good, it's feelings of shame and guilt and not enoughness. That's our body's homeostasis. I learned a lot about this from the book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. I'm sure other books talk about it as well, but just citing my sources in the cosmic corner of the internet. But essentially our body gets very addicted to a certain way of being. And there's elements of our body, you know, we've got a lot of earth energy being very within our body. Our body can be very addicted to certain ways of being. Even if our mind is like, what am I doing? Launch the thing, do the thing. Sometimes we just freeze because that doesn't feel safe. We're so used to playing in certain arenas that it can feel really scary to go bigger or to try more or to shoot our shot. Sometimes we freeze. And that's just one coping strategy. You know, some of us fight, some of us fawn. We all have different ways that we respond in times of stress, but it's just asking yourself, where is this behavior coming from? Is this coming from the most empowered, actualized version of me? I'm going to share with you all an exercise, but warning, do not do this unless you are ready for some harsh truth, okay? It's Capricorn season, gotta keep it real. But if you ever are stuck on something, when you meditate, when you drop in, I want you to connect with your higher self, the version of you that is the most empowered, the most actualized, and ask, would they be entertaining this toxic ex? Would they be staying in bed for 2 hours? Like sometimes that is a reality check and it comes instantly. It'll be like, my higher self, like, is this the person that I would be with as my most empowered, actualized self? Sometimes it comes down to no. And it's like being very honest about that, realistically taking in where it is that we are now and where it is that we want to go, and recognizing how sometimes we have self-sabotaging tactics that are designed to divert us because success feels scary, especially if it's a disruption from our system where that can feel uncomfortable. So everything in our system wants to keep us where we are. So that is freezing, that is self-sabotaging, doing, that is staying in certain toxic cycles that we know are not good for us. The encouragement is to feel certain pain points that could come up because that could surface today, while choosing instead to operate from your most empowered, actualized self. You can love and nourish the wounded parts of you, the parts of you that have felt hurt, that have felt disappointed, but they're not in the driver's seat. You are in the driver's seat. Put them as a passenger princess. Don't put them in the driver's seat. Put the most empowered, actualized version of you as the driver's seat, as the person who is making decisions. Because if you allow the wounded parts of you that just want to keep you safe, even if it's like a safe hell or something that perpetuates cycles that you do not want, it just wants to keep you safe. It just wants to keep you where it is that you have been. And so if you let that part of you take the wheel, it will just drive you in circles. It won't want to go to new territory because it's like, we don't know what to expect there. Let's stay exactly where we are because we're scared, because we're hurt, because we've been hurt, all of these things. And it's just loving that part of yourself and just saying, hey, just be passenger princess. Okay, I'm here, but you don't need to be behind the wheel because you're not going to get me where I need to go. And so with Mars square Chiron, there can be certain pain points that come up around your physical body, around your vitality, around your desire, around your ability to get what it is that you want and desire. And with Mars square Chiron, there could be certain energy around, I work so hard, and for what? This always happens to me. I always work so hard at something and I get taken advantage of, or someone swoops in and takes credit for my hard work. This is always what happens. You know, Chiron parts of us love when this is always what happens. It loves to be proven right because the Chiron part of us is hypervigilant, looking for any sort of danger that can be seen, looking for any possible way that we could get hurt. And then when we do get hurt, in a weird way, it validates itself where it's like, see, I told you that you were nothing. I told you that you couldn't have what you desired. I told you that you were worthless. And that's what's so painful about Chiron loops is that it hurts, it's painful, but subconsciously we seek out things that validate what it is that we feel like is true all along. And that part of us, as painful as it is, sort of loves to be right, where it's like, see, I told you. And that's where it's just important. Chiron, you're the passenger princess. Listen, maybe turn the radio up and be like, okay, the empowered, actualized version of myself can hold myself within this pain or just the ouch of what is brought up at this time, while also being conscious around, I'm going to drive elsewhere. I'm going to choose something else. So with Mars square Chiron, you can feel like some of your anger is defrosting. You know, sometimes we just have to problem solve, or we just have to fix the issues. Maybe some of your pain points is, I wish someone would help me with some of the things that I'm carrying, but it's always, oh, they can handle it. And it's like, really, can I handle it? And like really desiring someone to kind of share the burden with you. That could just be coming up for some individuals. And sometimes, you know, we're put in certain roles in our life where we're the fixer, right? We're the problem solver. Oh, they can handle it. They've got it. And when that is the case, you could have felt like you were not in your agency to be mad, to be frustrated, to say no. And so there also could be elements around feeling residual or past anger come to the surface around, I should not have had as much to carry as I've carried. Because of that stressful situation at work, I just had to keep pushing on, but that was not right. Like there also could just be anger that's asking to be felt and released from your system. And on Tuesday, the moon is in Scorpio for most of the day until 3:34 p.m. It sextiles the sun in the middle of the night, Venus in the morning. So again, the Scorpio moon can be intense and powerful, and the Capricorn placements can be intense and powerful. So there is an ask for focus, which could be challenging with tomorrow's energy that we'll get into shortly, but to focus deeply on the matter at hand and to redirect yourself if you feel yourself getting pulled off course. The Scorpio moon will also trine Saturn, which is helpful for that. That lands at 9:33 a.m. And then the Scorpio moon opposes Uranus at 10:49 a.m., which can bring emotional ups and downs or things that are unexpected. The Scorpio moon trines Neptune around 3 p.m. So that's to really romanticize your life and who it is that you are within it. You know, building a legacy around yourself, building a story around yourself, and being very conscious what the story is and how you repeat it to yourself around, this always happens to me. This is just so like me that this happens and I was let down here. Be very conscious the narrative that you are writing for your life, and to strive, especially this week, to build a new story, to build a new narrative, to build a new way of framing yourself within the movie of your life. When something goes right, start to tell yourself, that's so like me. I'm so lucky. I'm so blessed. And if pesky old thoughts do emerge, especially with Mercury square Chiron later, it can be helpful to distance ourselves from it. So if you see that coming up, again, to pattern disrupt around, that doesn't sound like me. Like those sort of thoughts don't sound like something that I would think. It's being very conscious how it is that you position yourself. And then the moon will enter Sagittarius at 3:34 p.m., sextiling Pluto that evening. So it's a reminder to get back up, to keep going, to keep trying. You know, sometimes we take an L. With Mars square Chiron, you could feel like actions that you took, shots that you took didn't pay off, work that you invested didn't pay off. And it's important to build yourself back up. Like, don't allow yourself to double down on yourself around you're a failure. It didn't work out. It's just like, oh, it didn't work out, but I'm going to keep going because in the narrative of my life, I'm positioning myself as a hero. On Wednesday, January 14th, after midnight, Mercury in Capricorn will oppose Jupiter in Cancer, which can affect our focus and concentration. We can feel pulled in many different directions. We grab our phone to go do this, and suddenly we are deep in a subreddit about wombats. And it's like, how did I get here? I grabbed my phone to call Aunt Marcia. Like, sometimes we enter into rooms and we're like, why did I walk in here? Like, you could just feel a little absent-minded, as well as like you're being pulled in many different directions mentally. And this can cause us to sometimes scatter our energy, say yes to too many things that we don't have the capacity to fulfill, or even have certain expectations around things that we should do in our day, in our week, in our month that is not necessarily realistic. Now, you know, you're getting your horoscope from a Pisces, so I'm always going to say shoot for the stars, be delusional, all of that. But we are in Capricorn season. So sometimes we have to be realistic, especially if our own unrealistic expectations make us feel bad about ourselves around, oh, I feel like the worst because I didn't do A, B, and C. I feel like the worst because sometimes we write 20 things on the to-do list and then we feel horrible about ourselves because we only did 5. And again, perpetuating certain narratives around you never do enough or you never get things done. You'll never get ahead if you keep slacking off like this. Again, this week asks us to be real. It's Capricorn season, but be loving. And be loving enough to keep it real with yourself every so often, where we can say within the protagonist, where maybe this person has a burst of motivation to reply to all of the texts, but motivation fades. Discipline remains. Like, motivation is doing something when you feel like it, which can be a recipe to fail in and of itself. Like, structure is how we succeed. I'm not saying it needs to be abiding by society and how society tells you that you should reach your goals or what success even means. I'm not saying that, but it's loving yourself enough to be honest with yourself, how your energy moves, and making certain commitments from that space. That is where you make change that lasts, because we can all get excited. You know, beginning of year, a lot of people set New Year's resolutions, even though I would say astrologically, the most supportive new beginning to 2026 is the Capricorn new moon this weekend, or the astrological new year in March. You know, a lot of people get so excited in January around, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to make all of these changes, but it doesn't last, because we do that around this moment, around getting excited about the vision board, but we do that and it doesn't last. This week is a new moon about making lasting changes. And part of that is around being realistic with ourselves, around how our energy moves, setting realistic goals. Because when you show up for something, when you hit certain metrics, when you check things off the to-do list, you feel the reward from that. And that encourages you to keep going, versus if you said that you have to conquer all 592 messages in one swoop, that's going to feel overwhelming. Versus if I were to set the goal, okay, let's get it down to 500, that's a little bit more manageable, and it builds up the confidence around, okay, tomorrow I can handle 100 more. So just being mindful with Mercury opposite Jupiter, especially this happening in the middle of the night. Do any of you ever have like middle of the night decisions that you're going to change your life? Like, you just get excited. You're like, I'm going to get another job. I'm going to start working out. I'm going to enter my fit era. And you do all this research, and the next day it's time to actually go to the gym, and you're like, you know, we can't always bank on feeling like it. Sometimes it's helpful to have structures in order to support us, as well as have realistic milestones in place in order to continue to build the confidence and the belief that we can trust ourselves to show up. Because when we set certain goals and then we don't reach them, it's like, oh, this is so like me, another failure, another thing that I didn't show up for. And so it's just important to look at that. And with Mercury opposite Jupiter, just being mindful to what you commit to this week, what you decide that you're going to do this week. We could just be a little overly idealistic, and it's time to be realistic. Venus in Capricorn will sextile Saturn in Pisces. This lands at 10:19 p.m. So this can be very helpful around looking at your money, making certain money decisions, how it is to maximize income, how it is to bring more money in, how it is to budget, what you want to allocate things towards. You also could be looking at love through this element around what are my standards, what are my expectations, as well as what is it that I value within connection. Like part of our vibe check and why it felt so shameful is it's like, I love Jimmy. I love Jack. I love Jess. I don't want them to feel like I hate them or anything like that. Like these are important relationships to me. And so it's important for me to fight through the discomfort and the freeze and just talk to them, show up for them, make them a priority. You know, everybody is busy. And I know so many of us have busiest person in the world syndrome, but truly everybody's busy and we all make time for what we find valuable, for who we make valuable. So it's putting in the effort consciously if that is a desire of yours, whether that's investing in the friendships and relationships that you have or even investing in the energy to be open to new ones as well. Outside of that, the moon is in Sagittarius all day long. So while Sagittarius is adventurous, spontaneous, big picture, I will highlight we are in the waning crescent moon phase, which is more so around coming inward. It's more so around release. It can be a little hermit and so you may feel inspired to go on solo adventures or to go on solo quests or to go places that only you can take you. You know, we could have many humans that we do life with, but there's some legs of the journey that we walk alone. And so there can be an energy around going on an adventure and not telling anyone about it or doing something that's just of sacred importance to you. On Thursday, January 15th, at 7:22 a.m. PST, Venus in Capricorn will trine Uranus in Taurus. And late last night, Venus in Capricorn sextiled Saturn in Pisces. And the reason these aspects are happening so back to back is because Saturn and Uranus are closing into exact in their sextile. This lands early next week, but the energy is already alive, available, accessible. It would be my encouragement to use it to actualize. This is part of the reason why I've been so jazzed about this Capricorn new moon is because the ruler of this new moon is sextile Uranus. Saturn is around time. It's around discipline. It is needed in order to make change. You know, Dua Lipa made her new rules for a reason. Sometimes we have to make our new rules for a reason, where it's so tempting to want to pick up the phone when this person calls. It's so tempting to want to stay in bed, whatever it is. But Saturn is the energy around, regardless of how I feel, regardless if I feel motivated or not, I am going to abide by my rules, my standards, my expectations. There will be certain times in which I will be enthused in the morning time to go and meditate and start my day. There will be days that I'm enthused to work on my passion project, to sit down and film Magic Monday. There will be times in which I'm less enthused. But regardless, it's an expectation that I've set for myself. It is something that I show up for. But those are the sort of shifts that are very challenging to enact. And that's the gift of the sextile to Uranus, is something new. And it does feel relevant that both of these planets are closing out a cycle. So there could be something in your life around this needs to come to a close. I have been in a particular loop. I've been in a particular cycle. I've been in particular habits. I need something different. And the two planets are actually working together. Think about how different Saturn and Uranus are. If they were people, Saturn would be, grumpy, stern, get off my lawn. You young kids don't know this and that. And back in my day, everything was different. Like that's kind of Saturn, right? And Saturn has a lot of genuine wisdom or insight to share, but Saturn can be a little stuck in the ways, right? And it's so powerful when we have an opportunity to find new ways to be stuck in. And that's the gift of Saturn sextile Uranus. Because Uranus, on the other hand, if Uranus was a person, this would be, someone who maybe is a hippie, has all sorts of interesting smells emanating from their home, somebody who talks about all sorts of visions for change within humanity and the new systems that are necessary. And now these two planets that seem very different are like working together. They're like extending a hand to one another. So there's an opportunity around where is it that we can create change that lasts. Change that's not just a pipe dream, but something that is woven into society or woven into our lives as well. These planets are working together. And that's really something I would encourage you to reach for at this time. And with today's energy, Venus in Capricorn will trine Uranus, which is around inviting in new ways of making money, new ways of investing your money, new projects, new opportunities. Your excitement to build the new needs to be louder than the excuses from the old, if that makes sense. Because if you get like some sort of genius idea this week, every sort of excuse is going to come up, courtesy of Chiron, around why you cannot do it, around you're not good enough, maybe with Sun square Chiron, you don't have enough time, you don't have enough energy with Mars square Chiron, nobody likes you enough to do it with Sunday's Venus square Chiron. All of that will come to the surface. And it really asks you, are you going to listen to that? Because genuinely, we can always find an excuse, a reason to stay in place. And that's coming from the Chiron of it all that wants us to stay in place. Even if we do not like driving in circles, it feels safer there. And so when we think, hey, there's a place on the map that I want to go to, oh no, we don't have enough gas for that. No, much better to stay in circles. And so with Venus trine Uranus and then Mercury squaring Chiron later on today, my encouragement would be pay attention to what fires in your mind if there is some sort of new solution or idea. Sometimes someone else gives us a solution or an idea and we automatically go on the defense. Around, well, you don't understand, that could never work because of A, B, and C. And maybe this person does not genuinely understand the intricacies, the ins and outs of your life. But sometimes cycles are easier to see from people who are outside of it rather than you being within. Around, if you're just kind of driving in circles in the same self-sabotaging loops and cycles, someone who is outside sees you driving in circles. And you could tell them like, no, you don't understand. I went through this and this happened, which is not to diminish any of that. But just someone outside can just look at that and be like, yeah, but you are driving in circles. Like, do you want to go a different way? Something that is true about humans and just the interesting people that we are is that we really want to feel empowered. We really want to feel right. So if anyone tells us something that we should be doing, our instant reaction, especially with Mars square Chiron in the air, which can make us feel very triggered and reactive, our instant reaction is to be on the defense around, well, you don't understand. You haven't been through what it is that I've been through. And it's not to say other people even get it or understand or that you need to take advice from everyone, but it's paying attention. If any time an idea is encouraged, you go on the defense. I am so guilty of this personally. There would be so many times that I'd be overwhelmed, pulling all-nighters, editing, and people in my life would be like, why don't you hire an editor? And I had so many reasons why I couldn't. And I would get so frustrated around, you don't understand what it's like to have a YouTube channel or whatever my excuses were, because I was defending my own unhappiness. And then when I finally listened, it changed my life. It really did. And so it's just important to observe where it is that you're fiercely defending your own unhappiness, your own limitations. It's not to say that other people know what it's like to be you, only you know. But if you are deflecting any sort of new idea to get you out of a situation, it's important to open yourself up to inviting in different solutions. Even if you're trying to explain some sort of technological issue and all someone has to say is, oh, have you tried turning it off and turning it back on? Like, yeah, I have. You know, it's not to say every bit of advice that is given is good, but with Venus trine Uranus, it's being open to the new ideas, perspectives, as well as being open to the new people, you know? Venus trine Uranus could be an energy around new social opportunities, saying yes to new and interesting dates or something like this. Also paying attention to your stories around that with Mercury square Chiron. Because honestly, with Venus sextile Saturn, this could be the start of something new, like in something solid, right? Venus in Capricorn, we talked about last week. It's like having our standards, having our expectations. What do we want to build? Who do we want to build it with? And with Venus trine Uranus, Venus separating from its sextile to Saturn, it's being opened how the universe may be delivering that to you. And as I highlighted, at 10:21 p.m., Mercury in Capricorn will square Chiron in Aries. So this comes for our mind. Okay, this is our mental stories. This is our loops. And this is where it asks you to be very mindful. What are you thinking? And to see where it is that you can pattern disrupt around. If you feel yourself going in a certain direction, echo our own deficiencies, inadequacies, and feelings of them. But what I will say about Thursday's astrology is that the moon is in Sagittarius all day long, and it trines Chiron at 1:13 p.m. So even though Mercury square Chiron is building and you could feel a bit triggered by things that you read, things that you hear, there's an opportunity to nourish yourself amidst those particular triggers, in a sense, or to find ways of reframing it even. You know, if you get a certain comment, like this is sort of energy around, look at the bright side, at least people are commenting. At least they're saying something. It's not to say it doesn't hurt, whether it's a comment or something else that is shared to you. The Sagittarius moon will square Saturn in Pisces at 10:17 p.m. So you could go to bed with a little bit of like a oof. And it's not so much like ego like we had earlier in the week. It's more so emotions around, I feel so drained. I feel saddened. I feel sorrowful. Am I always going to be in this particular loop? And it's so important to know that you are not defined by any sort of loop or any sort of cycle that you are currently in. Like we think, oh, I'll love myself as soon as all of these elements, like we tend to think, as soon as my outer world is the way I want it, then I'll love myself. Then I'll talk nice to myself. But the truth is it needs to be inverse. The more that you really tune into your own script, how you see yourself, how you narrate your story, the more you start to see the results that you want to see within your outer world. Because fundamentally, if we hate ourselves, if we are self-deprecating, if we are ashamed and guilty of who it is that we are, our mind will look for more proof that validates just that. It's so challenging to flip your thinking, but there genuinely is an opportunity to do just that, especially as we get closer to the weekend. But first, with Mercury and Capricorn square Chiron, it's important to be mindful for the stories. There is a creator that I follow who's talking about how she disrupted her own inner script. She had a ponytail on her wrist, and every time she caught herself being negative or harsh on herself, she would just slap it in order to like negatively reinforce, like, no, we don't do that. You don't have to literally do that, but it is helpful to tune into how is it that I'm talking to myself? What are the loops? What are the stories? That's where it is that we can change it. We have to acknowledge it in order to change it. And that's sort of the vibe with the Saturn sextile Uranus of it all. On Friday, January 16th, around 3 a.m., the Sagittarius moon will square Neptune in Pisces, which can most certainly enliven your dream space, really rich, vivid, what the hell was that sort of dreams. It can also make our emotional field a little bit more porous. Keep in mind the moon squared Saturn last night, which is sometimes harsh emotions. Saturn and Neptune are getting closer and closer to align come February. Expect an all signs video on my channel coming soon around that very aspect. But with the energy of moon square Saturn, it's kind of harsh emotions. And then with moon square Neptune, it's either a desire to check out from them, numb them, even if it's with the very habit that perpetuates pain. You know, we just want relief. When we're in any sort of pain, we just want relief. And a lot of us scroll in order to relieve pain, or we look for a distraction, or we look to our ex, whatever it is. We recognize to a logical level, this doesn't make sense. I'm perpetuating something that makes me feel horrible about myself. But when we are in pain, we just look for relief. Our brain experiences emotional pain and physical pain the same. It filters it the same. When you're in pain, you just want to do anything to relieve the pain, even if it's something that you know is going to cause more pain down the line. And so there can be a little bit of an escapist vibe just earlier in the day around either procrastinating, whether it's checking out from reality and just kind of absorbing yourself within your own fantasies. And there also could be a lot of sensitivity. You could be taking on other people's emotions, or it could just be getting That's So Raven, where you could just get certain feelings that come to pass, just even in very micro ways. You know, we tend to think that being psychic has to come through in these grandiose ways where it's like predicting these world events. But a lot of times you can be very psychic as it relates to very mundane elements of your life. Something pops in your head around, oh, I wonder where that sweatshirt that I ordered is. I forget what date it was meant to be delivered. And then it comes to your doorstep moments after. Or you think of someone and then you hear from them right away. Or you're really craving pasta and your partner comes home and they have all the ingredients to make pasta. Neptune energy reminds us that there's all sorts of information that we can grab should we really trust ourselves with the ability to hold that information. The moon then enters Capricorn. So we've got a Capricorn moon Friday. So it should be hardworking. Capricorn moon energy can make us a little hard on ourselves, which is just important to be mindful of. You know, this weekend we have so much fertile, rich, powerful energy that I'm looking forward to sharing with you. But I do want to highlight that currently Mercury is getting closer and closer to Mars. The two conjoin tomorrow in addition to many other aspects that we have tomorrow. And I mention this because it could be very quick energy mentally. You could be getting a lot of things done. You could have certain conversations. You can finally respond back to your messages. If anybody feels me and the protagonist on this particular issue, we can get a burst of motivation. But again, burst of motivation without structure, we're just going to perpetuate the same cycle. So it's using the burst of motivation to establish new structures for yourself so that you don't have to rely on just feeling like it. It's around, I know on Wednesdays I call Jimmy, or I have communicated to this friend, hey, if I ever don't respond, it's nothing that you need to take personally. I am just working on A, B, and C. Or it's being diligent around once a week, I'm going to voice memo Jess. And that's a great way for us to connect. Like, it's not just relying on motivation, it's giving yourself structure. But that being said, you should feel more mentally motivated. There can be a little bit more like feistiness in the collective at this time, more people wanting to debate with you, fight with you. With Mercury, Mars, people are just a little spiky. And also with Mercury, Mars, you could be sort of spiky. This really activates our mental space. So your mind can be going a mile a minute. It could be really hard to turn your mind off. Like when you're done working, when the tasks have been done, you could still be thinking about, oh, I should do this and I should do this and I should do this. And the encouragement with this much earth in the cosmos is to come back into your physical body, connect to nature, remember to eat food, do some yoga, something like that. On Saturday, January 17th, Venus does enter Aquarius today just before 5 a.m. But before it does, Venus in Capricorn does sextile Neptune in Pisces. And so it's loving yourself enough to build your dreams. Creating your dream life is the ultimate act of self-love. It says, I am so worthy that I deserve to have what it is that I desire, and I'm going to go out and get it for myself. Like, that is a true act of love. And it's working with elements of reality without being bound by it. Because when we feel like our reality is all that we are, we will feel like I'm just someone who's going to stay in bed for hours and hours on my phone, even when I know I should be getting some movement. I just am someone who's going to accept this sort of behavior from my ex treating me this particular way. Something that's so insidious about certain experiences that we know are not good for us is that the longer we a lot of times experience cognitive dissonance within it, insidious is that we start to feel like that's what we deserve. Like, the longer that we stay in a situation that is disrespectful to us, the more and more our self-worth can be worn down because we feel like how it is that we're being treated outside indicates how it is that I deserve to be treated or how my time should be spent. And that's where it gets so important to pattern disrupt, to do something different, to be like Dua Lipa and set up new rules, because you don't want to stay in situations that are eroding your self-worth. Because the more that your self-worth is eroded, the more you will feel like you deserve any sort of disrespectful treatment to you. And with Venus sextile Neptune, it's just believing in your dreams, even if they are just pipe dreams. Currently, it's believing in your ability to make them happen and to know that you are worthy of them. At 4:43 a.m., Venus will shift into Aquarius, which is all around friendship, community, humans. But what's interesting about Aquarius is that it's a bit of a dichotomy where it's the popular loner energy, right? Where it is around groups and friendships and community, yet a lot of times Aquarius does feel different than other humans. And it's just important to know that there are people out there who will match your freak. Okay, if you related to what I was sharing earlier around feeling like there's plexiglass that separates you from other people around, I want connection, but I feel so different, I feel so weird. It's trusting that there are other individuals who are on your wavelength. We all have unique qualities within us, but it's so special when we're able to commune and gather with people who are on the same wavelength, whether that's in online forums, whether that's in group activities. Something that I had to get real with myself about is what I was perpetuating myself around. I'm just so different than other people. I'm not like other people. Honestly, having a YouTube channel has helped me realize I'm not as alone as I thought that I was. Like, there's so many things that I've said on this very channel that I haven't dared to allow to exit my mouth before, because I'm like, that's super weird. And then there's so many of you who match my freak. Or get what I'm saying. It makes me feel like I'm not alone in so many elements of life. And I'd built a fortress within my life for so much of my life around feeling very alone or thinking that nobody would understand. But it's because I was trying to get plexiglass connections to understand. Those were never meant to be my people to understand. And it is such a gift to find your people. And if you don't feel like you have your people, your friends, your Dua Lipa slumber party, This is goals. Literally 2026 goals. I want to have a slumber party like this. Like truly. If you feel like you don't have that, it's believing in the ability to, and also being open to new ways in which that comes your way. It's owning who you are. It's following what you love that magnetizes the right people to you. Just before 9 a.m., the Capricorn sun trines Uranus and Taurus. So really owning all that you are, unique qualities and all, weirdness and all, eccentricities and all, expressing yourself in creative ways, allowing visions to be grounded. You know, that's sort of the gift of the astrology right now, is that there is a little bit of a dreamy energy with the Neptune. There's unusual, eccentric, novel energy with Uranus, and there's all of the Saturn energy. So it's like actually grounding those visions down, because Uranus is brilliant and genius, but it's like a flash in the pan. It's lightning in a bottle. It's there and then it's gone. Neptune energy is dreamy, but it could be a pipe dream, right? It's like as soon as everybody sobers up, it's like, that was a silly idea that we had last night. But Saturn energy is around taking those bits of genius and making them happen, as well as seeing yourself in the lens around these things can happen to you. You deserve these things to happen for you. And there can be a little bit of brainstorming energy. Mercury aligns with Mars this evening. So you could be very busy with something. You could be talking about something, brainstorming certain business ideas. You can get a burst of energy to work on business endeavors, which is powerful, and certainly batch the content, plan out the launch, do the things, but also remember to match it and meet it with structure, because motivation fades, discipline remains. Innovative ideas put into practice. The sun sextiles Saturn trines Uranus, expressing yourself in ways that are unusual and weird and different and go against the grain, but having a solid start to it with the sextile to Saturn. The moon is in Capricorn all day, opposing Jupiter in Cancer at 5:14 p.m. PST. So there can be an energy around overextending yourself. I just feel like with Mercury, Mars in the evening time, there could be brainstorming energy, debating energy, or even just doing a lot, having a lot of ideas, feeling very motivated, and you could just kind of pull yourself in many different directions. You know, it's so excited to feel lit up by an idea. And sometimes we burn ourselves out feeling like we have to do it all in one day. But it's remembering, you know, Capricorn, to get to the top of the mountain, one step at a time is all that's necessary. And my last encouragement for Saturday, you know, I'm hoping this Mercury Mars energy comes in around being fired up by different business ideas or feeling very lit up by certain topics that you are learning about. It can show up around being a little bit more argumentative, having a little bit more banter, potentially even having a hard time sleeping if you feel like your mind is going. As someone with Mercury Mars within my chart, you can always tell the Mercury Mars is, because they typically talk very fast and they typically talk with their hands. But the best way that I have found to navigate Mercury Mars is connecting to your physical body in order to tune the thoughts out. That can always be helpful. On Sunday, January 18th, happy Capricorn new moon. And what a Capricorn new moon it is. I cannot even tell you how long I've been looking forward to this new moon. I spotted this new moon last year and I just knew, I just felt it in my bones looking at the aspects. I was like, I have to do an event on this new moon. This is so potent. This is so powerful. I think everyone in the world should work with this new moon. And this is my encouragement of why. So with the new moon in Capricorn, it is at 28 degrees. So you'll want to look at where within your chart has 28 degrees Capricorn. That is a particular life arena that is incredibly fertile. There is a lot of concentrated energy to that portion of your chart. This new moon in Capricorn answers to Saturn in Pisces, who sextiles Uranus in Taurus. This is new beginnings, solid beginnings, grounded beginnings, innovative new starts, fundamentally a pattern disruption, doing something different, establishing new rules, new boundaries, new standards, new projects, new endeavors. It's not just calling in new, it's up-leveling your standards to even receive the new. It's seeing yourself in potent new ways that align with what it is that you are creating. It's not just calling in the new, it's calling in the discipline to continue to show up for it. This Capricorn new moon pulls in that Mercury-Mars alignment. So it's very important what it is that you are speaking into existence. Are you speaking words that talk down to yourself and others, or are you speaking words that uplift, that inspire, that create solutions? This new moon trines Uranus. Also Mercury trines Uranus today. New ways of viewing familiar situations. With Mercury sextile Saturn, it's being realistic about what is. And then with Mercury trining Uranus, it's being idealistic with what what could be and actually experiencing a fusion of what is and what could be. That's what this new moon is about. This new moon exacts at 11:52 a.m. So if you feel so inspired to do a ritual, that would be around the time that I would do it, though we have a new moon window to work with beyond that. But this is a time to not just call in what you desire. It's calling in the rules that are going to maintain what it is that you desire. It's not just calling in the new home. It's calling in the budgeting plan to put money towards your new home, a realistic sketch of the time investment around meeting with certain realtors. It's a vision and a plan. Is the energy of this new moon. And really, when we consider the wide conjunction to Pluto, this new moon can be an opportunity to quantum leap and to quantum leap away from the familiar wounds of the past. The Capricorn moon will square Chiron first thing in the day, and it technically is squaring this new moon, albeit a very wide orb. And so this new moon is a choice point. It's the last new moon that we have before eclipses start up in February. And so it's really a choice point around, am I going to continue to drive in circles, or am I ready to go new places, knowing that new challenges, new obstacles are going to meet me there. New levels, new devils. Capricorn isn't the devil card in tarot for nothing. We will not ever get to a season of our life in which we are not challenged in some particular way. But it's really asking, am I through with the cycle that I'm in with the same issue over and over again? Because that's what makes it very clear that we are in a cycle, that we are in a loop, when it's like the same thing over and over again. I feel like it's Groundhog's Day. Maybe it's with this particular person, maybe it's with this particular situation, but it just continues to reinforce itself. Maybe it surfaces in different arenas and the only common denominator is me. And there is a certain comfort in being in a cycle, even if it's unfulfilling. We know what to expect in a cycle. Going into the unknown, no longer driving in circles, that's scary. The moon has a wide conjunction to Pluto. It's challenging to go where it is that we have not gone before. It's challenging to leave behind something that's not serving us. Even if we know it's causing pain, there's still a comfort in it. And there will be moments that you feel tempted to go back. And that's where it's important to abide by your new rules, your new standards for your life and for yourself within it. And know that even if you don't have your own little Dua Lipa slumber party vibe, that is what everybody here in the cosmic corner of the internet is, that we're all keeping each other accountable. We're all cheering one another on. You are not alone. And this could be a new beginning starting now. I want to just let you know that because this new moon lands at such a late degree of Capricorn, the moon does enter Aquarius at 2:18 p.m., then aligning with Venus in Aquarius that evening. So such a lovely time to be in community, whether that is online, whether that is in a group setting, whether that's calling a friend, voice memoing a friend. I will say voice memoing friends has been such a gift within my life. I am just not a texting queen, and I just need to get real with myself about that. It's actually hilarious that I have social media, because I should not even have a phone. Like, I'm not responsible enough to have a phone, let alone have many platforms on the internet where I am expected to respond at a timely rate. Luckily, I have friends in my life who understand that, we all have our fortes. We all have our gifts. And when I was created, texting was not one of them. And I just really love having my voice memos with my friends. Like, I go on walks, we voice memo back and forth. It's like listening to my own little podcast from them. And then I send a little podcast. And it's just like an investment in time, because I never want my lack of response to be something that is hurtful to my friends, as well as to, if you've ever DM'd me or reached out and I have not replied, I promise you, it is never anything personal. I am just not responsible enough to have a phone. And a lot of times the Pisces in me, I genuinely respond telepathically. I send the vibes here and I don't always send it here. So please, no one ever take it personally if I ever do not respond to you. My Aquarius and Pisces placements are oftentimes on a different planet. And that's kind of important to me. Like, I do feel like it's not realistic for us to be accessible all the time. And it's honestly not good for our mind to be accessible all of the time. I feel like it's really good for our creativity to check out from technology every so often. And for me, what I've found has been the best for my friendships, for my relationships, is really prioritizing spending time together, prioritizing voice memoing one another. You know, we all have a particular cadence as it relates to our friendships. And I think communication is key, right? We've got Mercury, trine Uranus, sextile Saturn, even like conveying or communicating, hey, I don't have a moment. Hey, I've been really busy. I'll call you this weekend. You know, communicating those sort of things, giving ourselves grace, where a lot of times when we're in those shame and guilt loop spirals, we can feel like, oh, they hate me, when people are absorbed in their own life. They're not thinking about you as much as you think that they are, but it is good to be communicative, right? As well as find what works for you. What works for you in your relationships? Maybe you're not a voice memo person. Maybe it's going for a walk with your friend every other week. Maybe it's grabbing coffee. Maybe it's taking Pilates with a different friend. It's finding that flow as it relates to your friendships, as well as your openness around creating new friendships, you know, joining leagues, joining clubs, joining communities. It's a beautiful thing to feel connected to humanity. And Moon on Venus tonight wants you to find that in whichever unique way that you want. So there is a focus around connection. I will highlight that evening, the moon does conjoin Pluto, which can be a little intense. There can be an element around feeling into humanity and what is ongoing and what is happening, and feeling very out of control. And that's where it's helpful to check on the people that you love, connect with the people that you love, connect with other people who are navigating what it is that you're navigating. There's just an ask this week to remember that you are not alone. We can all feel like that time to time, but it's knowing that genuinely in the bigger scope of things, you are not alone. So my loves, that is our week. The Magic Monday mantra of the week is, I believe in change. It is so important not to get too swallowed up by the way that things are, because when we are navigating a Saturnian season, there's some Saturn energies in the air, we can feel so bound by reality. And that can be quite depressing, feeling like things will always be as they are now. And even feel like we are always going to be how it is that we are now around. This is always how it's going to be. There's no way I could ever change it. This is just my lot in life. And it's so important to be mindful around where we get bound, where we get really deeply attached and identified with certain belief systems. And there's an opportunity this week, going on to next week, to genuinely invite in change. But to change your life, you have to believe in your ability to change. And change the world, we have to believe that the world can change, that things can get better. And it's not just dreaming it, it's doing it. Again, with these planets working together, it's both the innovation to think of something new with the discipline in order to show up for it, whether that's within our life or society at large. And it can feel overwhelming thinking about all of the things that we want to change about this experience, our experience. It is one of the most challenging yet rewarding things that we'll ever do in this lifetime, to change our ways from things that are not serving us, to genuinely choose a different path in life, or to genuinely actualize our own ability. It's so hard. You know, we look at the world and we're like, we need change, but we ourselves sometimes are resistant to change. Sometimes it starts with us and just even believing in the possibility, the potential of change at large. So my loves, that is our week. The emoji, we're going to do a crescent moon, little crescent moon emoji as a shout out to the moon punch from Loom. Thank you again, Loom, for sending me this. I'm going to go ahead and drop in the promo code just in case any of you also want to drink moon punch. Just in case, you never know. My Instagram handle is @Haley Comet Astrology. My TikTok is the same. I would so love to connect with you over there. And until we meet again, stay magical.